Hi, this is Jackie's Reading Room, and I'm your host, Jackie P. Have you turned some pages today? For those of you out there who love books and reading like me, I am certain that you have quite likely found many different ways to share this interest with the people around you. But maybe some of you are looking for new ideas, or you'd like to know what I do to show my passion for books, in addition to recording this podcast, that is, which is a very, very fun way that I found, but not necessarily everybody wants to do that. So here are 5 ways that I think you could share your love of reading. And these are all things that I personally do. And I'll give you some examples as I go along. So the first thing that I do is I talk to people. I talk to people about books and reading quite a lot. Maybe it is annoying. I don't know. But I think people are starting to get the idea after they've known me that it's it's all about books and reading for me. Not just that, but it's a lot about that. So when I say talking to people, it can be to your family, to your friends, if you have some great neighbors, if you are a teacher, I'm sure you talk to your students about different things. So obviously talking about reading and asking them about what they like to read it would be a great way. So I ask people what they're reading. I discuss it with them and share about my recent reads. Sometimes I'll say, that reminds me of a book I read, or, oh, I've read that too. What did you think of this, etc. It's one of the things I love to do the most. And I guess for me, it starts often in the home. So my youngest daughter, who's now 12, she read the novel Pax, written by Sarah Pennypacker. It's a young adult title, or I would even say possibly like children's book. And she read it for school, and we talked about it. And then I learned, I borrowed a copy from the library so that I could read it with her. So she was faster though, because I've got so many books to read. So she read the whole thing, and I still have to finish it. But it was really nice to be able to share about the book together. And I knew about the character. So it's the story of this young boy who had adopted a fox named Pax. And at some point, the young boy has to go live somewhere else and has to be split from his beloved fox. But he can't bear it. And so he's going to go out on his own and look for his fox. And so far, I really love this book. There are some really beautiful children's and young adult titles. I have an episode on young adult fiction and making your child a reader. So if you want to go back to those episodes, you'll have all kinds of other ideas there. So I talk to people about what they're reading, and if they've heard of a book, and et cetera, et cetera. And as a teacher, obviously my students always have to read a book. That's for sure. Second thing is, you could become a steward for a little free library. You may have seen those. You may have one in front of your house already, or maybe there's one in your neighborhood, or close to your church, or maybe there's one. I see that not too far from my house, there's a daycare that has put one in front of their building. So it's a great way to share kids' books. And in episode 14, which is the episode on making children readers, I talked about leading by example. So I guess one of the things I talked about was Little Free Library, and sharing my love of books through that. So so far I have established 2 Little Free Libraries, and it's a great way to make books circulate. And as a matter of fact, I found this article from 2018, so the numbers are possibly even more now, that there are 75,000 little libraries around the world. That's a lot of little libraries. And so there's possibly even more today. And that's an estimated 54 million books shared. Imagine that. And it's a great way to continue the shelf life of a book, right? To Because it's not because you've read it once or twice that the book does not work anymore. On the contrary, it's still, unless you dropped it in water, you can still totally read the book. And I really believe in passing on books to one another. So and this is a great way to meet people. People stop at the literary library, then you can start talking with them. It's a movement that I really enjoy. I'm going to put in the link to the organization called Little Free Library, but and you can actually order a little plaque, right, that you put on your box, and then that can go on the map. But you can also do it very simply, right? Some people, they, let's say, refurbish an old, those old gigantic microwaves that there used to be. Well, you could always kind of revamp that and make that like a little free library. There's all kinds of ways of making that happen. A third thing that I have done, and that you can quite likely do, maybe you already do that, is to join or start a book club. Maybe at your local library. You know that I talk about libraries all the time, because libraries are not just a place for you to borrow books, but you can obviously borrow audiobooks, books in Braille. You can have access to some services, and they have a lot of educational programs in libraries. So for children, for adults, and so on. I was just looking at the little brochure from my local library here, and they have, I believe, at least two book clubs that you can join. And sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's online. One thing that the pandemic has taught us is that online is here to stay. I mean, it's nice now that we can have a combination, right? We're not just stuck online. I personally started a book club in 2021. And I do it 4 times a year. I can't do every month. It's too much, because I do have other things that I have to do, like work and take care of my family, and take care of the house, and my own activities. But 4 times a year, I find it's really nice, because I get to share about some books that I enjoy. And my book club is a diverse book club, in the sense that I try to vary the genre of the books we talk about, the nationality of the authors. And it's also an inclusive book club, because I make my questions very open ended, where even if you have not read the book, you can still answer the question. So my next installment is going to be actually in about a week from now, as I'm recording this. And it's going to be on this novel called The Shadows of Men by Abir Mukherjee. And it came out in 2021. And it's a historical crime novel taking place in India in the 1920s. So it's super fascinating, because I've learned a lot about India. It's a country I really do not know. So I love it when that happens. And so that's a way for me to share about some authors I've discovered, and we're going to have a few questions on India and the crime genre. So that's what I do. But you don't need to start one, really. You could just join one. There are some clubs that exist out there. But you can also make it very informal, right? You could get together with 2, 3, 4 friends and say, listen, okay, let's just have a meeting once a month, once every 2 months, and just talk about the books we've read. Or you pick the same book, whatever you decide to do, right? There's different ways of doing that. And it doesn't have to be super formal at the same time. Another thing that you can do, and that I also do, is you can write about the books you've read and that you've enjoyed or not, because It's also okay to not like every single book or not love them all, right? So if you're a student, for example, in your school newspaper, right, that could be a way you could have a like maybe a one section that would be reserved for book reviews. You know that there are lots of websites out there, so if you could start your own blog. For example, I believe in episode 5, I mentioned the blog called Crime by the Book, right, which is an excellent tool to read about crime novels. The person in charge of that, she shares about the crime books she's read. You could go to websites like Goodreads.com, right? And there's another one that's called the Storygraph.com, which is kind of similar, where you get to track your reading. You can actually rate and review the books. I'm personally on Goodreads, but I'm considering, I think I should also have a Storygraph account. And if you go on there, you'll be able to find reviews. And so sometimes if you're debating whether you should read a book or not, or I know as a teacher, I would go there sometimes and look at the reviews to see, what people thought of a book that I was maybe considering for a class. In episode 7, I mentioned the Book Talk influence. So Book Talk, works with short little videos, and I went on there just briefly because I'm not on Book Talk, but I'm not on TikTok anyway. But I saw that some people made some really funny and short videos on, let's say, a book they've read. I saw there was somebody who made a Christmas tree made of books, and I said, okay, I want to do that. Totally. I have enough books in the house that I can possibly make that happen. Bookstagram is another way that people use. This is more with photos, right? You create this kind of nice decor, and then you put, let's say, a book in the middle, or some kind of item that's related to books. Anyway, there's lots of possibilities out there, especially with the internet. But you can definitely find ways to write about the books you've read and enjoyed. And finally, one thing I do, obviously, and I've done this forever, is to give books as presents to the people I love, or to let's say my students. So for example, let's say I would have a contest, and often the prize is a book. You can give books for birthdays, for Christmas. Remember the Icelandic tradition of giving books on the 24th of December, and then everybody reads together. I think that's totally awesome. I mentioned that in another episode. If there's a new baby, right, in your family, or maybe a friend of yours, I love to give, classics like The Very Hungry Caterpillar. You can make it personal, right? You can, let's say one of your friends is celebrating a birthday, just like I had one friend's birthday recently, and I gave her a copy of Bluebird 2022 by Genevieve Graham, who is a historical writer from Canada. So I usually always give books that I've personally read, because I find that it makes it more personal. So I've also given copies, I believe at least twice, of the Comfort book by Matt Haig. Episode 8 is all about Matt Haig. I love the guy. And the Comfort book, I think it's a cute little book that is just easy to give. So it's one thing that I love to do personally, giving books as gifts. So listen, there are lots of ways for people to share their love of books and reading. I'm never going to stop doing that, because that's, I believe, what I've been meant to do in my life. Hopefully, it's going to inspire you to do the same. But in the meantime, if you want to know what to give, you'll have to turn some pages. So go and do that, and please share. Take care.